Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Welcome to our Women in Leadership Fireside Chat series hosted by Arise Leadership. I am so excited to speak today with Jyothi Rao. She is seriously a legend. She's a former CEO and president at Intermix. In addition to that, she's held a number of leadership roles at renowned companies such as Gilt Groupe, Calvin Klein, Banana Republic, and Gap. She has over 30 years of retail and leadership experience. Honestly, she's just like a role model. So I'm so honored. Just before this, I got to chat with her for a few minutes. In my mind, I was like, wow, she's just amazing. So I can't wait to dive in more and hear about her experience. Hi, everyone. I am Shivani Berry. I am the CEO and founder of Arise Leadership. We offer online leadership programs for women. Our mission is to elevate 1 million women into leadership, and it's been just incredible seeing how many graduates at Fortune 500 companies have gotten a voice at the table and gotten promoted faster after completing the program. I really think we need to have more open and honest conversations around what it takes to move up into management. And that's why I'm so excited to speak with Jyothi, who has a proven track record that we can learn so much more. So today, Jyothi and I are going to chat for about 30 minutes, and then we'll take questions from all of you. So if anything pops up in your mind throughout the conversation, drop it in the Q&A icon that's in the bottom right of your Zoom screen. We want this to be fun and valuable for you. So if anything resonates with you, drop it in the chat. And reminder to please change your settings to everyone instead of host and panelists so everyone can see what you're adding in there. All right, Jyothi, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's dive in.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me, Shivani. That's such a generous introduction. You're too kind.
Well
and
deserved.
It's an honor for me to be here as part of the Arise Leadership community and really being part of this mission to accelerate the leadership journey for women, like my passion of all things. So I'm really excited to be here. And for everyone that joined, so many of you, thank you so much for joining today and looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, it's perfect. Well, thank you for that. So let's get to know you better. Maybe you can share a little bit about your career journey. So much is, we can read someone's LinkedIn profile, but there's so much story behind it. So would love to hear about your journey.
Sure. Well, I'm going to share maybe a little bit about my personal journey and my professional journey, because I do think your personal story, where you came from, your parents, your upbringing, all of those things make you unique, makes you you. And it's something you really should tap into as part of your leadership story and who you are as a leader. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. I have lived on 4 continents in this world. So I was born in India. I moved to Nigeria when I was a young child, and I went to school. I did most of my schooling in England. I went to proper English boarding school for a good part of it. And I did most of my schooling in England. And then I came to the US for college and built my career here. And now today I live in beautiful, creative, diverse Brooklyn, New York with my husband and my daughter and my dog Cosmo. And we have a great life here. But I guess all to say, this journey that I've been on personally has, really helped make me a very adaptable person to different types of people, different types of places, different types of companies. And that served me really well, so adaptability, and agility is something that I really learned from my personal experience. And I think dig into your own personal experience and see there's always a story there and something you can pull from. In terms of my professional story, I started working at the age of 21, right out of college, and I fell into the fashion industry. Honestly, the world was my oyster. I was 21. I thought I could rule the world, do whatever. And I thought, oh, maybe marketing, maybe investment banking. I honestly didn't know. And I had this great interview on campus and I loved the company. And I went to work for this company called Gap in San Francisco. And I started in their merchandising program, which was at the epicenter of the whole company. Mickey Drexler was the CEO at the time. He was this famous guy. He was an up and coming dynamic person who was creating this thing called specialty retail. So I was there, I was at the epicenter, and the company was growing really fast. And the great thing about working in a portfolio company is you get to work on lots of different divisions and different areas. And I did just that. Every 2 or 3 years, I got moved around, and I worked in the domestic division, international division, men's, women's, Gap, Banana Republic, outlet. So I just learned and learned and learned. And I felt like I got the PhD in retail, honestly, working there. It was fantastic. And then I went on to Calvin Klein to launch their specialty division. Then after that, I went to Gilt Groupe. That was my first foray into digital. I had no idea about anything about digital when I joined. And then after that, I went, as you mentioned, to Intermix to be the president and CEO. And it all just went past so quickly. And here we are over 30 years later. Now I'm advising fashion and beauty and tech companies. And, it's just been a fantastic journey. And along the way, I've worked with the most creative, smart, wonderful people. I've had great mentors supporting me. So I'm very grateful, very fortunate that I'm here today.
Amazing. I love that. And I love that, how you're like, I could go do anything. And it just sounds like you kind of just kept building for what was really passionate for you. And, I'd love to talk more about what you feel like helped you stand out and move up, because often, and we were talking about this right beforehand, like I think so many people falsely believe that hard work is enough to move up and good results will speak for themselves. And we both have experience that's actually not true, but like when you're experienced, like, why is it not true? What do people need to do to stand out? What are some of the key skills or actions that we should be taking?
Yeah, listen, hard work does matter. Let's say that out loud. It does matter a lot, actually. So keep doing it. That's great. And results do matter. I mean, companies hire you to deliver the results. They have goals and objectives. And why did you get the job? You got the job to come in and work hard and work smart to help them achieve their objectives. So let's not lose sight of that. Okay, that is important. But what I believe is how you get things done matters the most, and lots of people can come in. There's tons of smart people out there, well-educated, experienced people who are going to come in and can probably help you achieve your goals. But there's a handful of people that just show up in a way that you notice them every single time, and I think the how you get your work done, how you show up matters a lot. It's what builds your reputation. And let me tell you something, your reputation stays with you always. They say it takes you decades to build a reputation and 5 minutes to destroy it. It's a real thing. And I think that especially today in the world of social media, that's very true. So, really think about how you're showing up. And now what is valued in how you show up varies from company to company, right? You go to startup tech company, they might value risk taking so much more than if you go to an established accounting firm or something like that. So it's not one size fits all for sure. And you should understand that whatever company you're joining, what are their values? What does it take to be successful there? And you should be aware of that when you make those decisions and those choices. But I will say, I think there are a few things that in my playbook always stand out with people. So I'm going to say the first one, and some of these are going to sound cliched. You please don't eye roll like my 12-year-old daughter. But the first thing is integrity. Now, integrity, you're going to hear on everyone's value, statements, right? But integrity is not just about being honest. Okay. Yes, you have to be honest. You're told to be honest when you're 3 years old, and you have to be honest now and forevermore. That's true. It's more than that. It's about being authentic. It's about being open. It's about being real and open and honest and transparent, I would say, about who you are, what you say, your data, your insights, how you present your work. Just don't have hidden agendas, and just know that the very senior people, they've been around the block like myself a few times, and they can sniff that stuff out, so just be real and be open and transparent and honest. So that's price of entry in my book. Then I would say be curious, just have this thirst to learn, to really find the answers, not the easy ones, but like to really work at finding the right solutions, the right answers, ask lots of questions, ask questions of your bosses and your managers and your peers, ask a lot of questions of your employees. That's how they learn. They learn by you asking a lot of questions, good questions, right? So just have a thirst for knowledge and curiosity. Just be a lifelong learner and be curious. I love curious people. I'll take a curious person any day on my team. So I think that's really important. And that also requires you to have the willingness to test, learn, fail, iterate. That's all part of learning. So curiosity. Of course, collaboration and teamwork, another one that's perhaps a little cliched, but we before I, mission before self. Always, 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 always. Doesn't mean you can't advocate for yourself or further your career goals or any of that. The two things are not mutually exclusive. But I love people who come in and they are there for the collective. They're there to get the work done as a collective. And I just, those people always stand out to me, they're never worried about, is this in my job description? Why is that person stepping in and helping me on this project? They don't worry about those things. They're just like, let's get it done. Let's get to the answer, And I always come across those, and they always grab my attention. So I would say, teamwork, just get the work done, do it collaboratively. And the other one, I would say, shine the light on others, just shine the light on others. The light will be shined on you. If you'll be around people who'll do that for you, I'm sure, especially if you do a great job. But I think, recognize other people, your teammates, your employees, your manager, even, without, sounding too self-serving. But I think, shine the light on others and just never, ever take all the credit, yourself on the work. Even if you did 95% of it, just make sure you spend 50% of the time recognizing the people that did the 5%, because that's really, really important. So those would be my top 4. Did I say 4? Yeah. I'm sure I'll come up with others, but yeah, those are the ones that I always notice those about people. I say that person, keep an eye on that person. They're gonna be someone doing great things.
I love that. It's very really practical, and I love how you broke that down. I'd love to ask you a couple questions around some of these.
Sure.
Better understand them. So to shine the light on others, I completely agree with you. You don't want to be that person who's just focused on yourself. And, especially I think often as women, and in general, I think other people do this too. It's it can be, the tendency can be too much to shine light on others, but how do you balance that versus making sure that your own work gets recognized? Let's say you're a manager of a team and your team is driving the contributions. What's your advice to people listening in? How do you balance the shine light on others, but also make sure that your manager, executives are aware of your contributions?
Yeah, I'll share with you what I've done, in my career. I've just made sure when I have my development conversations with my boss, my reviews, my touch base time with my boss, and making sure you have regular time with the person who reports into you is really important. People get very lazy about this. And I bet in the remote environment, it's even easier for that to happen. Don't let that fall by the wayside. Make sure you have touch base time to kind of go through your checklist of the projects you're working on and how they're doing. And that's a great opportunity for you, right? To say, look at the progress we're making. Here's what, I've accomplished and we've done, but use it also as an opportunity to say, oh, and by the way, I want to recognize this person who came through, not maybe just on your team, on another team, on a cross-functional, person. I'm telling you that those things really get, if you have a great manager, a great leader, and not everyone always does, they notice those things, they notice that they know you're getting things done because you're giving them the updates, and they know that you're doing that, but they're also hearing through the grapevine, hey, but Shivani also, stepped in to help on this project, and the ways that she's going about doing this project is really awesome. Her collaborative skills, her ability to get buy-in, whatever it is. So, make sure those touch bases happen, and then make sure you have separate developmental career touch bases, separate from the let's get through our lists touch bases, to really talk about your career and to talk about your progress, and we'll maybe speak a little bit more about that, but that's a great opportunity for you to say, here's what I've accomplished. Here were my goals. Here's how I'm doing against them. Here are the company's values. And I think I really show up pretty well around these values. What do you think? Is there something I could be doing better? Is there something I could do better, more differently? Ask the question. Don't wait for the feedback. Solicit it. Go for it, And then when you get the feedback, sometimes it's going to be, yeah, cool, I can do that. And sometimes it's going to be I didn't know I was like that, or I didn't know I came across like that, or whatever it is. Take it to heart, reframe how you receive feedback, take it to heart and do something with it. The number of people I've given the same feedback to over and over again that never change anything about their behaviors, they don't last that long usually. But, I think that you've got to also take it to heart and do something with it. But you have forums for that. You should have forums for that. And if your managers are not making time, you put it on the calendar and you make sure that there's time for that stuff, and that's a great venue for do that. In the public forum, shine the light on others. It's this beautiful, circle of shining light, because you do it for other people and it's going to come back to you. It does naturally.
Yeah, that's so true. People want to be around people who like lift each other up, and you're right, that like make you stand out even more. And I love that you just weave into, you share your update, but then you also weave in giving shout outs to other people.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So in a genuine, authentic way. Don't be like, oh, this is my time to say something nice about someone, because just be genuine about it. And if you're real about it, there isn't a project that gets done without someone else having done something great in it. Nothing gets done alone. So I think that's important.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think like most of the projects, most work, like you said, like you need to get other people involved. So your ability to like partner with others and like drive cross-functional projects, like you actually are highlighting in that way. Like, oh, I worked with this person, it went really well, and you're highlighting that skill also.
Yeah. I mean, at our company, my former company, we used to have a culture award that we did town halls every month. We did awards that, our employees sort of nominated their coworkers, and, when we were in person, they would actually go up and present it and talk about that person. It was quite the tearjerker, actually. I love
that.
And it was great because it was all around our cultural values. And there were people recognizing people in their own department, but there were a lot of people who were recognizing people in other departments and in saying, I worked on this project and this person really like came through for me and this is what they did. And it was it was like my most favorite part of the entire town hall was that part, because it was just, you really saw what working together collaboratively in this like beautiful way looked like.
Yeah. Oh, I really love that. And like one thing I've been thinking about is like, how do you stand out? How are you seen as being outstanding in the eyes of your manager? I think probably everything you just shared helps to be seen as outstanding. Is there anything else that people should be doing to be seen as outstanding in the eyes of their manager?
I think a lot of what I already mentioned, but what I appreciate the most, because in business, you have problems that are showing up all the time. You have, you need to think about new business ideas all the time. You need, new growth vehicles. And what I love is when I see people who are, yes, doing their day job, the thing that they were brought in to do, there's a set of responsibilities and tasks they have to do. The ones who are always thinking outside of that list, who are going beyond that and saying, wait, I work for this company, and irrespective of what my little list of things are that I'm supposed to be accomplishing, like, why don't I think bigger picture about this company and how I think this company could be successful, Like, what is it that they should be doing? Are there some features on their website that they should have, they don't have? And maybe they're not even focused on that. Who can I find in this company to just go, the head of e-commerce or someone, and go and talk to and say, hey, I used to work at this company, and when they did this, their business changed like that, and there's this great idea at a former company of ours that really worked that I think is something that we should maybe think about. Or, hey, I shop on this website and there's this feature on this website that I'm so addicted to. And I always wonder why we don't have that at this company. Do you think that is something we should think about? You're not being asked to think about that. Like, that's maybe not part of your job, but you are thinking about how you can contribute to the success of the company. You're letting yourself have a voice, about the future of the company. And I just absolutely love that when people take that initiative to really think about the company in a broader sense other than just their job at hand,
Yeah. I really love that, and thinking outside the box. And I think like one final question I have on the topic for you is like, we've talked a lot about like getting that visibility with the manager. A question I often get is, how do you get that visibility with like more senior executives? So, what are some strategies that worked for you as you're moving up, or maybe when you were in these CEO roles, like that others use to get that visibility with you when naturally we just don't have that much face time? with someone at your level?
Yeah, interestingly, in a mid-sized company, so when I say mid-sized company, let's say a company that's, let's say below $1 billion, okay, mid-size. Or maybe we should speak in terms of employees. If you have less than, let's say, 1,000 employees at corporate, or less than 750 employees at corporate, which a lot of companies have, by the way, I actually don't think there's any reason that you shouldn't have visibility to very senior people in the company and to CEOs and such. I think it's really about, and when you guys all go out to become CEOs or head of product or head of marketing, CMOs or chief commercial officers, whatever you want to be, head of a nonprofit, I hope you really think about, creating forums that give junior people access to you, to your leadership team. And you really have to sort of lead by example on this, because if as the head of the company, you do it, then all your senior people will also do it. That just it kind of happens that way, I think, in general. So I'll give you a few examples, right? So when I was at Intermix, I used to actually meet individually with new employees until we started to hire a lot of people. Then I couldn't do that anymore. But so I would do once a month a new employee breakfast. So everyone that started at the corporate office, we would bring them all together. I would have no agenda at all. And I would just bring them together. We'd serve breakfast and we would just talk about whatever they wanted to talk about. Like if they were wondering something about the company or they had a question about the company. So I talked to them a little bit about our values and, because they went through orientation, so they got all that stuff, right? So I would just speak more about what's important to me, what, I care about in this company. But the one thing I always said to them is, you are all consumers and we're in the fashion business and you're all young and you're all shopping. I know you are. So, and you're not just shopping at Intermix, because I'm sure you're shopping at other places. Bring your ideas to the table. Like, why do you shop here? What do you like about it? What are the features? Like, what is it about the service at this place that you love? And make sure your ideas are heard, make sure you tell it to your manager or tell it to the head of a function. Just, it's easy to find them in this company. We're a mid-sized company. When you get into the billions and you get lots of layers and, it becomes a lot harder. It does, and it's much harder for the most senior people to make that time and the space for it. But you have to find forums, whether it's doing town halls, whether it's collecting questions in advance that people have, whatever that might be, whether it's creating affinity groups, whether it's around diversity or whether it's around a women's group or whatever it is, that's another way to get engaged in the company, right? Okay, well, maybe I'm going to go in and participate and volunteer for some of these affinity groups, or maybe if there's a volunteering program in the company, I'm going to go and be one of the people that goes in as an organizer in that company. Those are all ways in which you can be part of the company culture and also there's usually a sponsor, right, for all of these affinity groups and projects and things like that. There's always a sponsor that's a senior person. It's a great opportunity for you to get that visibility with somebody like that. I think it is, something you have to work at. And I think as leaders, it's incumbent on leaders to create these forums and to make sure that these things exist. And if they don't exist in your company, ask for them, say, wouldn't it be great if we had something like this? Wouldn't it be great if we had a town hall or we celebrated people's, had a values award, something like that. So.
Yeah, I love those tips, like super practical on that. So I'd like to flip the lens and talk about bad behaviors that we should avoid doing. Because we've been talking about, here's the things that you should be doing. So on the flip side, what are the actions that you've seen that actually prevent people from getting promoted or being considered for other growth opportunities? I imagine that's where a lot of people get stuck.
Yes, people get stuck. And listen, there's a wide range of bad behaviors. Okay, so I'm not going to touch on the bad behaviors that are going to get you into legal issues. So we'll just assume everyone's going to do the right thing on that, right? But there's a lot of other bad behaviors that I'm sure you've all seen at play, at least in one company that you've worked in. So I would say, I'll give you my, the ones that I really bug me a lot and make me angry. So first, I would say is don't play politics. Okay. And everyone's going to say, oh, there's politics. It's always politics. And, politics comes in all shapes and sizes, but I mean, like the really bad politics, don't channel your favorite Succession character because they're all like awful people. So don't do that. Don't create little cliques and like unhealthy alliances. They're positive, healthy alliances. Don't create unhealthy alliances like a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours in meetings kind of thing, manipulating and maneuvering people around or, for or against an agenda. I've seen this happen before. It's bad behavior. Don't do it. Don't get involved in gossip and negative chatter. Just don't do it. I always say we all drink from one well of water. My team used to always like roll their eyes at this analogy, but I said, we all drink from one well of water. It only takes one person to put poison in it, and then we're all done. So don't be that person, don't get in that negative chatter vortex. And it's very easy to get sucked into it. Don't do it. But most people don't get stuck on those things. There are very few bad actors that kind of participate in those type of things, but there are. Where I think people tend to get stuck is on sort of the smaller, pettier things, I don't know why this person's involved in this project. It's my project. They get territorial, or they're, I don't know why I wasn't involved in that because, my team should be more important than some other team, or a project goes sideways and it's like, well, my team did everything perfectly, but the other team, they're the problem, or that person's the problem. And I think it's all that stuff, which the more senior you get, the more petty those things seem. And that's where people get stuck. They're smart. They're really good at what they do, but they're getting stuck and wrapped up in these things. And I've seen some like pretty good talent that's gotten wrapped up in this stuff. And then, their capital in the company like kind of drops. And so I would just say, really try to take the high road and, feed the dog within you, not the wolf. Feed the dog within you, not the wolf is what I would say.
Oh, I
and
love
if you
that.
can feed the dog and others, do that too, because that's also nice.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true. I mean, I was actually just like, as you were saying this, I was like, yes, this is actually where I think my biggest mistakes have been at work, is when I'm so focused on, it's like my ego, essentially, where I'm like, they didn't like, my team delivered, but that person didn't do it, or like, they're not being helpful on this project. And like, why are they stepping into my territory? Like, this is my team's domain. And you're right. It's like, so, and I would like take that home with me. Like I would like be so frustrated at work and be like telling my partner about it. And just like, why? And you're right. That's like not.
You're there to solve the problem. If somebody else wants to come in and help you solve the problem, welcome them with open arms.
Yeah.
Come on, let's do this together, And I know everyone's not great about it, the way in which they come in, or they might come in like bull in China shop, but all of that is, you learning that managerial courage, that maturity to learn how to have those conversations in a constructive way. Listen, I think you could add so much value in this respect on this project. We really want you to be involved, but can we just also give some space to the people who've already been working on this for 2 months? And, there's always a way you can navigate it, have the conversation, bring people in without feeling like that you sound petty or territorial or, whatever it is. So I think people get stuck in those small things. And I think if you just always are using this filter of, I'm here to make this happen for this company. We're all here for this. So let's just work together to make this happen. And I get it. It's not always kumbaya. The characters in play are not always very nice. I get it, but just don't let that take you to a place you don't want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very good points. I completely agree. And, on that, I love to like double click on when you are working with people who are the bad actors.
Yeah.
We've all had our share of jerks at work.
Yeah.
What do you do? Like, even if you're trying to take the high road, but they're still like, just like focused on like me, like their own recognition. They're not being collaborative on the projects. I've had a past coworker who would like go behind my back and like share updates. And I'll be like, let's talk about this. I said, oh, 1-on-1, like we would have the meeting. I would like share the update. And then we get into the meeting and he's like suddenly giving a different update, or like just doing it without me. What advice? I'm sure you've had your share of these experiences. So like, what has worked for you?
Yeah. I think if you have always, my number one, whenever people came to me these things, I always said to them, have you tried to address this with that person directly first? You always make your best effort to address these things in a constructive way with the person. Uncomfortable, icky, yes, all of the above. You got to do it. You got to have the courage to go and be constructive about it in how you approach it and do it. Okay, that might not work. Some people, they've had decades of being who they are. It's very difficult to change the nature of who they are. And that's why sometimes they're not open to feedback or can't change, because it's ingrained in their character and it's a hard thing to move on. Then I think you do have to get the partnership of your manager, your boss, your sponsors, to say, help me, advise me on how I can handle this, versus this person's being a jerk and they shouldn't be part of blah, blah, blah. It's like, go to them and say, how can I best handle this? Can you advise me on how I can handle this situation? So you're kind of bringing it to their attention, but you're also trying to get advice on how you might be able to manage it, and sometimes someone above you is going to have to manage it. That's just what's going to have to happen. I've had some people on my team who were incredibly talented, very, very, very good at what they do. Some of the best I've ever worked with. They were jerks. Had a huge, you said brought up ego. They had a huge ego. They lacked humility, and it's not that they didn't work hard. They worked very hard. It's not that they didn't deliver results. They did deliver results, but very focused on, it was I before we, it was self before mission. It was ego. It's exactly what you said. And, and sometimes I know you're going to see people like that get the promotion in your company. You're going to say, well, see, they're a jerk and they're getting the promotion. Please trust me, play the long game, and you will see this all washes out in the end. And it doesn't mean that that person's not going to get that one promotion, but your reputation follows you everywhere. And that person's going to build a reputation for themselves, and let that not be you. Because, then you have that reputation out there, and it's a very difficult thing to change. It really is.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think especially like you said, now in today's world where like everyone's so connected. And so you're not isolated within your company. It can travel outside your company.
Yeah. And you give your reference list, and let me tell you, everyone does informal references. Right. So, yes, the recruiter will call 2 people on your reference list, and they'll call 2 people that are not on your reference list. Yeah. So yeah, your reputation is important.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing that. Last question for you, and I think that's a really kind of fitting on kind of moving up, is we have a question from our audience. What's the best way to transform from being a manager to being a truly visionary and inspiring leader?
Oh, wow. You'll have to ask someone else, maybe. I'm not sure.
No, I'm speaking to the person. Yeah.
Okay, so So I would say, perhaps what happens is you start to, you're an individual contributor, then you become, a new manager, then you become a manager of more people. And that big transition is more about learning how to get things done through others, right? Through making sure that other people are clear on what needs to get done, getting things done through others. So I would probably say, as you then get to the most senior level, you really look, and by the way, being inspiring leader can happen at every level, right? It doesn't have to happen when you get all the way to the top. I think it's kind of maybe presented to us or given to us as the, the accolades, but you really can be inspiring as a first-time manager. So I'd say a few different things. Number one, make sure everyone is clear on the long-term goals and the short-term goals. So where are we going, and what are the tasks and opportunities ahead of us in this next 12-month cycle that we have to achieve? Make sure everyone is clear about that. Make sure everyone is clear how their role fits into making that happen. That third part, we have goals. Everyone has goals. But does everyone in your organization understand how their job fits into achieving those desired results? Very important. Cannot communicate it enough. Even when you think you've communicated enough, communicate it some more, like 2 times as much. Okay, communicate it all the time. Communicate constantly about how you're doing towards those goals, both when you're succeeding and when you're failing. Make sure you talk about the failures just as much as you talk about the successes. And when you talk about the failures, talk about what you learned from it. And when you have the successes, talk about why it was successful, and always put teamwork in there. But, it's like, I think that that's first and foremost. You have to communicate, and then communicate some more. Communication is key in a clear way. Just communicate all the time. The other piece is really care about culture, really care. Culture's tossed around a lot, but it's very hot in New York right now. But, I care a lot about culture. I spent a lot of time on defining our cultural values of the company, on making sure that that was embedded in how we recruited, in how we promoted, in how we rewarded, in our recognition programs. And and I made sure that I lived by our cultural values, that I demonstrated that as much as I could every single day, that I required that of my leadership team. Can I say we showed up 100% all the time on those things? We didn't. We often, we would fall short, but we were always striving to do that. And it was really, it's important that everyone sees that in your organization, that you are leading by example, both in what you're delivering and how you're doing it. So I would say that's really important. Be like a decent human being, just be a decent human being. People want to work for nice people. Like, you can be successful, you can make lots of money, you can have fame, and you can be a nice person. You really can. And, Roger Federer, he's a nice guy. Like everybody says so, waiters who come across him and anything that's written about him. And, I heard a story recently about, some place that he'd gone to play tennis with somebody and how he could have just gone in and played tennis and left. But what did he do? He shook hands with everyone working at the tennis center, because you knew anyone working at the tennis center, that dream was to see Roger Federer or meet him. He let them take pictures with him. He probably extended his whole visit to this place where he came to play with one individual for 1 hour. He spent a whole nother hour there that he's not getting paid to be there, or whatever it is, as an appearance, to let all the people who are working there take pictures with him, because he's a nice guy and he understands what people want, and of course, not to say that everyone wants to take pictures with all of us, but you know what it is, like, take the time to have that 5-minute conversation with whomever, that is, that maybe it's a junior person that sits near where you sit in the office, or, maybe now that everyone's remote, that's a little bit, I found that to be the thing that actually was more missing than anything when we went remote. But those in-between moments, and just be a person that cares about other people in a genuine way, and it'll come through. And, don't try to be someone else, just be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Be yourself. Yeah. I lost your voice. I can't hear you.
I love that. Thank you so much for breaking that down, because I think often the word inspiring feels so vague and unattainable, but just how you broke it down feels so much more tangible and able to go do that. This has been, Jyothi, this has been so inspiring, so insightful. Thank you so much for sharing all your experience and words of wisdom. I think I've learned so much from it, and it's truly, truly an honor to be able to come and have this conversation with you. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here, and thank you all for joining me today. And listen, if you are part of the Arise Leadership community, that means you already are taking a vested interest in investing in yourself, and that makes you already halfway there. So kudos to all of you. And Shivani, you're so awesome to have built this organization. And I understand 1,000 people have gone through this program, which is amazing in such a short period of time. So good for you. And thank you for having me.
Thank you
so much. Have a great summer, everyone.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. I love the energy. Thanks all. Take care. Bye, everyone. Thanks so
Bye.
much, Jyothi. Bye.